Dealers who once bragged about waitlists are now slashing prices and begging for buyers. Lots are overflowing, factories are slowing, and owners who bought at the peak are watching values collapse overnight. It's not just a slump, it's a reset. And if you own or plan to buy, the next few months could decide whether you save or lose thousands. In this video, I'll show you what triggered the sudden crash, which regions are about to feel it hardest, and the key signs that reveal when it's finally safe to buy again. Sticker shock from $120,000 to $25,000, 2021. Keystone, Montana, that sold for $120,000 during the pandemic boom, now lists for $25,000. Fifth wheel units that once sat behind velvet ropes are parked in clearance rows with fluorescent must-go stickers. Used models that were trading at $50,000 2 years ago are barely bringing $28,000 at auction. The collapse is not limited to one brand or state. It is sweeping the country. Dealers admit they are cutting prices by as much as 70% just to free up space and stop paying interest on unsold stock. The numbers prove it is not just a seasonal slump. It is a structural crash. And what forced dealers to start these fire sales? That is next. The pandemic boom that built the bubble. The roots of today's crash began 4 years ago when lockdowns turned highways into escape routes. More than 600,000 RVs rolled off assembly lines in 2021, the highest volume in history. Remote work and government stimulus flooded households with cash. Families who had never camped suddenly wanted their own mobile space away from crowds. Dealers sold out, factories added night shifts, and manufacturers bragged about waitlists stretching 6 months. The rush looked unstoppable, but it was never sustainable. People who bought to flee restrictions stopped traveling once flights resumed. Production kept going long after demand cooled. Builders cut corners to meet deadlines, swapping solid cabinetry for particle board and thin walls that warped under summer heat. By the time the market realized the party was over, millions of dollars in inventory were already sitting on lots. Those same shortcuts are haunting owners right now. If this RV crash shocks you as much as it shocked the owners, hit like and drop a comment below. What prices are you seeing at your local dealers right now? The data cliff. Numbers tell the story better than slogans. According to the RV Industry Association, total shipments collapsed from more than 600,000 units in 2021 to about 333,000 in 2024, a fall of nearly half. Black Book's used RV index shows prices down 25% from their pandemic highs. Winnebago's latest earnings report revealed sales down more than 50% in just 12 months, with profits sliced to a fraction of what they were. Thor Industries reported similar declines, cutting forecasts for the next 2 quarters. The slide mirrors the broader economic slowdown. Discretionary spending, the category that covers recreation, boats, and RVs, is the first to crack when inflation hits savings. Dealers say foot traffic dropped by almost half between 2022 and 2024. Every graph points the same direction, down. The so-called outdoor renaissance has ended, leaving rows of unused rigs baking in the sun. But it is not just prices falling, it is financing choking buyers. The interest rate trap. Even with huge markdowns, the cost of ownership keeps rising. Average RV loan rates now hover between 8 and 10%. For a used model priced at $50,000, a 10-year loan can mean monthly payments of more than $1,200. For many buyers on fixed incomes, that is higher than a mortgage. Dealers whisper about qualified customers walking away after seeing financing quotes. Credit unions are tightening approvals, and lenders demand larger down payments. The result? Rigs sit longer, interest accrues, and dealers slash deeper. Service costs add insult to injury. Repairs that once ran a few hundred now stretch into thousands, and parts delays keep owners grounded for weeks. Extended warranties rarely deliver what they promise, leaving more buyers disillusioned. The irony burns. The same industry that bragged about freedom on wheels is now begging shoppers to take units off their hands. Retirees and working families see through the pitch. They call them stealerships for a reason. What was marketed as affordable adventure has become a debt trap on wheels. The trust between builders, lenders, and buyers is fracturing fast. Next, see what that pressure is doing to the stealerships themselves. Lot gridlock. Across the Midwest, miles of concrete shimmer beneath the weight of unsold rigs. Dealers who once bragged about record waitlists now stare at rows of brand new units baking in the sun. The problem is not a shortage, it is a flood. Floor plan loans, the credit lines dealers use to stock inventory, have turned from lifeline to anchor. Each rig costs hundreds of dollars per month in interest alone. Multiply that by a few hundred units, and a dealership bleeds thousands before a single sale closes. Managers mark windshields with red age stock tags, a silent countdown to disaster. Empty showrooms hide the real story outside. Yards so full employees park on nearby streets. The longer a unit sits, the less it is worth, forcing discounts that eat away at every margin. Some lots are now running at negative cash flow, selling below cost just to pay the banks, and those discounts are nuking used values faster than anyone expected. Trade-in freefall. The crash is no longer confined to new inventory. On the used side, the bottom has fallen out completely. Auctioneers report low bids and rising no sales as owners refuse to accept offers half of what they still owe. One post on Reddit's RV forum shows a couple in Texas trying to sell their fifth wheel bought for $80,000. The best trade-in quote they received was $35,000. To close the deal, they would have to bring cash to the table. Across Facebook Marketplace and dealer lots, the story repeats. Hundreds of listings linger week after week with prices slashed thousands, yet buyers still scroll past. Even repo yards are backing up with transport trucks parked waiting for space. This is what happens when supply overwhelms demand. Every trade becomes a loss. Dealers hesitate to take used stock, knowing it could sit another 90 days. Some have stopped accepting trade-ins altogether, telling customers to sell privately and return with cash. Auction managers call it a gridlock market. Too many rigs, not enough confidence. But the pain doesn't stop at the driveway. It's now hitting the factories. Factories flinch. Inside the plants of northern Indiana, the echoes of nail guns and saws have grown faint. Winnebago Industries reported sales down more than 50% compared to last year. Thor Industries, the other major builder, followed with similar numbers and a warning that production will shrink again before spring. Layoffs have swept through Elkhart County, where nearly half the local workforce depends on the RV industry. Parking lots once crammed with worker trucks now sit half empty. Company statements talk about right-sizing output, a polite term for shutting down lines. The chain reaction continues down the supply line. Axle makers, cabinetry shops, and seat suppliers cutting hours or closing outright. Every missing paycheck ripples through diners, hardware stores, car lots, and gas stations that depend on factory wages. What looked like a simple slowdown has become a regional recession spreading across northern Indiana and southern Michigan. Corporate headquarters frame it as temporary, but the locals remember 2008 when similar temporary cuts stretched for years and never fully reversed. If they're cutting this deep now, what happens to the workers, schools, and towns built entirely on RVs? The household freeze. For ordinary Americans, the math no longer works. Groceries, rent, insurance, and utilities have climbed faster than wages. After 2 years of inflation, a retired couple living on fixed income cannot justify a $1,000 RV payment. Younger families juggling student loans and car notes have dropped out of the market entirely. The dream of hitting the road is replaced by the reality of keeping the lights on. Dealers notice it. Foot traffic from serious buyers is down to a trickle, and inquiries now end with the same line. Maybe next year. The culture that once glorified van life feels out of reach for most. It is not that people stopped loving travel, they simply cannot afford it. Manufacturers built for endless demand, but households have hit a wall. Until wages rise or financing falls, the lots will stay full and the factories quiet. And that's setting up the most painful part of this crash, the people stuck in it. Trapped owners. Across America, thousands of RV owners are discovering what it feels like to owe more on a vehicle than it is worth. One retired couple in Arizona financed a Jayco Eagle for $85,000 during the pandemic, convinced they could travel full-time. Today, the same model is appraised at $38,000. They tried to refinance to lower payments, but were rejected because the collateral value had collapsed. Now they face a loan balance nearly double what the market will pay. Selling would mean writing a check to the bank just to hand over the keys. Forums overflow with stories like theirs. People with good credit suddenly trapped in rolling debt. For some, the RV sits idle because even fuel and insurance are unaffordable. The dream of endless road freedom has turned into an immovable financial anchor. They watch the classifieds fill with rigs priced lower each week. But while owners drown, cash buyers are plotting their move. Cash opportunists. For every seller gasping for air, there is a cautious buyer waiting for the perfect moment. These are the value hunters, people who kept their savings and are now combing dealer lots for rigs under $30,000. They bring cash, skip financing, and know exactly which model years hold together when others crumble. They check roof seals, frame rust, and water intrusion before shaking hands. Many are retired mechanics or first-time buyers turned amateur inspectors, learning that patience is profit. A solid rig built before the pandemic rush can now be had for a fraction of its former cost. But the smart money is still careful. They know that storage fees, rising insurance premiums, and hidden depreciation can erase a bargain faster than a bad engine. They check tire dates, roof seals, and battery life before shaking hands. Most walk away from flashy touchscreens, electric slide-outs, and thin composite panels, focusing instead on simple systems that last. Their optimism is cautious, grounded in spreadsheets, not slogans. Yet every deal hides a risk, especially for the folks building these rigs today. Ripple towns. Nowhere is that risk felt more sharply than in the factory towns of northern Indiana. In Elkhart, layoffs spread like a cold wind through neighborhoods built around assembly lines. Workers who earned steady pay building motorhomes for decades suddenly face half schedules or pink slips. Local diners once packed with lunchtime crews now close 2 days a week. Hardware stores report fewer sales, landlords see late rent, and high school fundraisers struggle for donations. The entire local economy tilts when production slows. For suppliers, the pain runs deeper. Small shops making cabinet doors, wiring harnesses, and foam cushions cannot survive without large orders. When those stop, workers drive home uncertain about mortgages and health insurance. Economists call it a sector correction. Residents call it a collapse. Washington might see a normal business cycle, but here every layoff is personal. And still, policymakers call it a soft landing. Not for these towns. Before you leave, hit subscribe, because the next video exposes which dealers are quietly liquidating rigs this month, and you'll want to know before those hidden deals disappear overnight. Reset signals. Some signs suggest the freefall may be easing, though recovery will not come quickly. The Federal Reserve hints at possible rate cuts later this year, which could bring down monthly payments and revive limited demand. Manufacturers are quietly reducing the number of models they offer, trimming features that added cost but little reliability. Inventory days are starting to shorten as dealers stop ordering fresh stock until backlogs clear. Industry analysts say it will take at least another 12 months for supply and demand to realign. Until then, prices remain volatile and buyers remain skeptical. The market is not healing. It is resetting from the ground up. Builders who survive this reckoning will be the ones who embrace simplicity, transparency, and honest pricing instead of hype. Consumers are no longer chasing luxury. They are chasing durability, practical layouts, and low-cost maintenance. When lot rows finally thin, used inventories stabilize, and factory lights slowly flicker back on, that will be the first authentic signal of a bottom forming. Until then, patience and proof are worth more than promises. But how do you know when the real bottom hits? That answer comes next. Bottom watch. Every market crash eventually runs out of room to fall, and the RV collapse is no different. The question is not whether prices have dropped enough, it is whether dealers can survive long enough for demand to return. 3 clear signals mark the approach of a real bottom. The first is inventory shrinking below 90 days on dealer lots. When the backlog thins and new units stop collecting dust, balance begins to return. The second is stability in used pricing guides like Black Book, where month-to-month declines finally flatten. The third is a springtime uptick in buyer traffic that holds through summer, not just weekend curiosity. Auction data already hints at that shift, showing clearance rates improving slightly after 2 years of relentless markdowns across major hubs like Elkhart, Dallas, and Tampa. Dealers report more competitive bidding, with clean late-model towables moving faster than at any time since the peak collapse of 2023. Yet a brief bounce is not the same as recovery. Many models will never regain their former value. Warranties have expired, and even if prices steady, not every brand survives this reset. Survivor brands. Some names will endure because they built their rigs with restraint instead of flash. Keystone's Cougar line, Jayco's J-Flight, and Coachman's Catalina have outlasted fancier rivals by sticking to proven frames, standardized parts, and systems that any repair shop can service. Their secret is not luxury, it is simplicity. A dependable refrigerator and watertight roof mean more to the cautious road warrior than any touchscreen control panel. Owners know that when something breaks, replacement parts cost hundreds, not thousands. That practicality earns loyalty even during downturns. Dealers confirm it. These models move fastest when buyers finally return because they promise predictability, lower repair bills, and steady resale value. The companies behind them learned from the last crash in 2008, keeping debt low, maintaining supplier relationships, and avoiding risky expansion into luxury segments. They will likely be the backbone of the next recovery wave, anchoring dealer confidence when credit loosens again. Still, surviving does not mean thriving. There's another long-term force quietly reshaping demand, one driven by housing costs and shifting lifestyles, already visible far beyond the factory gates. The next wave. Demographics and economics are rewriting the map of who buys RVs. 1 million Americans already live full-time in their rigs, driven not by wanderlust but by cost of living pressure. Retiring boomers trade fixed mortgages for rolling homes, while younger families view RVs as an escape from sky-high rents. The housing crisis has blurred the line between vacation vehicle and permanent shelter shelter. As long as traditional home prices stay out of reach, this movement will grow. That demand may never match the frenzy of 2021, but it will be steadier and more practical. The next generation of buyers values efficiency, fuel economy, and reliability over gimmicks and glossy touchscreens. They care less about solar roofs or mood lighting and more about how easily a rig can be repaired in the middle of nowhere. Builders who adapt to that mindset will find a lasting market. Those still chasing luxury margins will quietly vanish. The crash did not kill the RV dream. It simply reset it around practicality and realism. And if you're eyeing a rig now, timing is everything. The difference between a smart buy and deep regret can come down to one season. The decision. We return to the same lots where this story began. Rows of rigs, stickers faded by the sun. A year ago, the window sheet screamed 120,000. Now they whisper 25. The question hanging in the air is the same one every viewer faces. Is this the moment to buy or the signal to wait? The answer depends on your plan. If you have cash, a secure income, and a clear budget for storage and maintenance, the next few months may offer lifetime deals. But if you need financing or plan to resell within a year, patience could save thousands. Walk the lot with questions, not excitement. Ask how long it sat and when the warranty starts. Stay silent, stay patient. The RV market crashed, and smart timing is your weapon now. Watch closely, compare, and stay sharp, because the next drop or rebound could decide whether you save thousands or lose everything. Subscribe now. Your timing starts here.